talking about adaptations. Now, some adaptations that animals have, you can tell really well in their bones. So over here I have some skulls from some different animals. We have a pig, we have a deer, a fox, a frog, and a squirrel. So each of these animals has different adaptations, especially for the foods that they eat. And so you can tell that based on their teeth. What do deer eat? They eat lots of green foods, right? They eat grasses, they eat all sorts of green things they find in the woods. They are herbivores, which means they only eat plants. And so we know this, even if we didn't know that deer were herbivores, we can tell based on their teeth. So if you see these teeth, they're a little bit more like our molars. They don't have very many sharp points. They're mostly used for grinding. And you can see on the bottom jaw as well, it's a lot smoother. There's not as many points on their teeth. And so that tells us that they do a lot of grinding and mashing. And that means that they're usually herbivores. So we have another animal here you might recognize. This is a fox, a red fox. So red foxes are usually carnivores. So carnivores, they have sharp canine teeth. You can see these big pointy teeth right here. And those canine teeth they use to grab onto their prey and to kill it, right? And then they also have these pointy teeth that they use for tearing meat. So if you compare those pointy teeth to these flat molars, you can tell that this animal does a lot of slicing and chewing with their food, and this one does more grinding and mashing, right? So this is an animal that eats meat. This is a carnivore. We also have an animal over here that is an omnivore, which eats both meat and plants. So this is a pig skull. I think this is a domestic pig. I don't know where we got this skull from, but there are wild pigs in the wild too. So wild pigs look a lot like this. This is the skull and these are the teeth, you see? So with omnivores, like I said, they eat both plants and meat. You can see this animal has some flat teeth for chewing and grinding plants. And it also has some sharp teeth on here. And with pigs, these sharp teeth are called tusks. Now tusks, pigs use them a lot for fighting or for being dominant with other pigs. But they could also use these for eating too, depending on what sort of things they're digging up and eating. So this is an omnivore. They have a little bit of both in their teeth. We also have a frog. Now frog skeletons are really hard to find because their bones are so small. They decompose very fast. But this one, we got lucky. This is a frog skeleton. And if you look on the inside, you see these tiny, tiny little grooves along the edge. These are basically frog teeth. They don't really have teeth like we do that kind of sit inside the little tooth sockets in the mouth. They more just have these ridged edge on the skull, on the top and the bottom. And so those ridges are how they kind of grasp onto their food. So the frogs we have at the museum, they like to eat worms and insects. And worms especially are very, very slimy and slippery. So by having these grooves on the inside of their skull, that helps them to grasp slimy foods like worms very well. So this animal eats slimy foods and insects and things like that. Now the last animal that we have here is a rodent. Rodents are animals that have these curved incisor teeth, and they always keep growing for their entire life. So as the tooth comes out and gets longer and longer, they have to wear that tooth down, otherwise it'll keep growing. So this rodent is a squirrel. We all know that squirrels like to eat nuts like acorns, and those big incisor teeth are very useful for cracking open acorns. They also have these flat teeth, which again look kind of like our molars, and they use that for grinding and crunching those nuts once they break them open. So those are some carnivores and herbivores and omnivores that we have here at the Stahaki Museum. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something about the adaptations that animals have, especially in their teeth.